Hello and thanks for joining us on Punters Inside Run. I'm Matthew Campbell. Great to have your company on what is the best day of racing for the year. It's Derby Day, 9 group races, 3 of them Group 1s, also plenty happening in Sydney. I'm joined by James Lamb from punters.com.au. Back after another week. James, great to have you.
Yeah, I got another run, Matty, which is nice. Good to be back.
It's a big day though, isn't it?
It's a huge day. It's the one day that I really look forward to every year, apart from Cox Plate Day. This is probably in my top 3.
Mick, Sharkie, it's Christmas Day for punters.
We don't have the black and white on, the traditional Derby fair, Matty, because we're a bit more colourful.
I've got the off-white and the beige.
You do have the off-white and the beige, but it is an outstanding day of racing. Depth across all the races, not just the Group 1s. Cannot wait to get stuck in.
All right, Nick H will join us from punters.com.au to talk Sydney focus. It includes the $10 million Golden Eagle. A little bit later we'll also take the big call with all our tips. And of course our Melbourne focus will concentrate on some more Group 1 racing. But first we're at the barriers with the 2 big ones, the VRC Derby and the Coolmore Stud Stakes. We'll start with the Coolmore. What a race this is, James. 3-year-olds down the straight. A lot of the fancied runners have drawn wide here, which, as we've seen of late, is probably the best place to be.
Yeah, especially with this rain, Matty, and if the inside chops up, and I mean, they generally go middle or outside anyway in the straight course races. So yeah, I think both the main fancies, Hluchaniuk and In Secret, have both drawn well out wide.
Shark, your thoughts on the race?
Yeah, it's incredibly open, and you've got the Everest form represented here too as well, Lamb. We sort of first look, you look at Hluchaniuk and think, well, he's got to be in contention, but he has to peak for the 3rd time this preparation. You factoring that in at all?
I am, but I'm also sort of going on home affairs running in the Everest last year, and then came back to this race and won by 3 lengths. So there's a nice little precedent for Hluchaniuk, and I'm not sure he'll be over the top necessarily. He's only 4th up. His runs have been quite well spaced, so I'm hoping they can go to the well one more time this preparation.
All right, let's have your top 3 then for the Coolmore.
Yeah, I'm going with Hluchaniuk on top. I just think, look, there's not much between he and In Secret, but I'm sort of banking on that Everest run, just giving him a harder edge here in what should be a pretty genuinely run race down the straight. In Secret is the horse, the main danger there. And I've got Buenos Noches. Obviously that Giga kick form is hard to fault, and he loves the straight as well. So it's going to be a cracking race.
I've got Buenos Noches on top because I reckon that that fact that it's been down the straight a couple of times and Giga kick form I like to see horses who've already been down the straight.
And he's really fluent down the straight too. He handled it with no issues at all, and he's got the pretty good form. He ties in with the Everest too.
Where did you land?
I landed with In Secret. I'm just taking a little set against Hluchaniuk. I'm just wondering about the 14, then the Everest, and then coming back to this race. So just going to take a slight risk on him. I've got In Secret to beat Buenos Noches, and I'm throwing Grand Impact in. He's the only unbeaten horse in the race, and he'll be up there in front. He hasn't had a horse head him yet. We might not see one head him on Saturday.
No surprises with me. I'm with the same horses, but Buenos Noches on top of In Secret and Hluchaniuk in for 3rd. All right, that's our Coolmore Stud Stakes. Let's get to the Derby. In past years, James, some of these derbies haven't been quality. This is a quality field and it's a deep field. Yeah,
no disrespect to Johnny get angry, but we might see the winner of the Derby go on to a bit better things than Johnny. But yeah, I think it's pretty, it always has a fairly long tail, the Derby. There's horses coming out of country maidens and whatnot, but I think the top end of this race is really strong, and the first probably 3 or 4 across the line might be in the Cups conversation next year, hopefully.
And we've got multiple form lines coming into it.
Multiple form lines. You've got also pedigrees. Some say that they'll stay, others probably not. Pericles, I think it's very much take on trust with what James Cummings is saying, because on paper it looks like he'd top out at a mile.
All right, your top 3 then for the Derby?
I couldn't go past Sharp and Smart. I just think the Spring Champion is probably the form line that I want to be with here. There's a few different form lines, as Shark said, but I just like the way Sharp and Smart. Bit of a mouthful.
No, that's us, mate. We're Sharp and Smart.
Was wide throughout last time, but just kept coming. Was probably entitled to fade over that last 50, but just attacked the line. Draws for a much better run here with J-Mac. He won't be wide, and I think Manzois is my 3rd pick, but also coming out of the Spring Champion. I think he's the best roughie in the race at around $26 or thereabouts. He was probably beaten 4 or 5 lengths in that Spring Champion, but 3rd fastest final 200 in that race, and got back a long way from a bad gate. So I think if you're having exotics, don't leave Manzois out, and Berkeley Square is the one I've got in for 2nd, just coming out of that vase.
Shark?
I want something that's going to really stick, Matty, particularly if it's a wet track. So I've landed on Miramasa at a bit of value. Okay. I loved his run at Caulfield with Mr. Maestro, just getting the better of him late. But to me, he looks like a horse that'll run the distance right out, goes wet or dry, so bases are covered there. Berkeley Square is going to be very, very hard to beat. He's half to a horse that got the trip, Senor Toba. He's won to a good standard over a trip in Hong Kong, so I think that gives him a bit of strength there late in the race. Sharp and Smart next.
All right, that's at the barriers with the Derby and the Coolmore. Coming up is our Melbourne Focus, where the Group 1 racing continues.
The betting brand for sports fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
We are racing in Melbourne here on Punters Inside Run. Mick Sharkie is with me, James Lamb from punters.com.au. It's the Empire Rose. It's another Group 1. It's 1,600 metres for the fillies and mares. James, fair to say the Kiwis are going to take centre stage here?
I think so, Matty. I've got them dominating the race. I just think the local mares have just been sort of taking in turns a little bit, and it's hard to trust that form. They haven't really been putting two decent runs together, so I'm happy to go with the fresh blood on the scene with Le Creek, who looks pretty special.
Does look very good, Le Creek.
Oh, yeah.
Performances in New Zealand. We often look at New Zealand form and hedge it back a bit, but she looks very good.
She's going to haunt me forever, Le Creek, Matty.
How?
I called up to buy her before her first start, and the owner said, well, might do something. Let's just see how she goes on Saturday. And of course, she won, and Le Creek is now Le Creek.
You know where you are now?
Yeah, I'm up the creek.
Le Creek, yeah.
We don't have a dominant mare, do we, in Australia at the moment? So you plug in the best of New Zealand, which is what Le Creek is. They usually measure up, Lammy.
Yeah, big time. I mean, they don't bring the ordinary ones over here at this time of year. They generally bring the right horses, your Melody Bells and those sorts of horses, and she might be every bit as good as Melody Bell.
Just the 1 3-year-old, but it looks like a nice one. She's lickety split.
Yeah, and I think with 49 kilos on her back and her pattern, I think she'll go forward from that gate, which is where you want to be with no weight on your back. And it doesn't look to be a whole lot of tempo in the race, so I expect La Creek and both She's Lickety Split to sort of settle in the first four and hopefully dominate from the turn.
Yeah.
All right, give us your top 3 selections then.
Yeah, La Creek, too hard to go past with that form around Mustang Valley, who's come out and won by 5 lengths last start. So trusting that Kiwi form. I've got She's Lickety Split as the main danger just because she'll go forward with no weight on her back. Yearning, I don't think can win. I would be surprised if she did win, but
nice odds.
I just think she's crying out for 1,600. 2 runs over 1,400 this prep have both been really good. Hasn't drawn that well, but should be peaking at the mile.
I fancy you've landed on the same top 2.
Same top 2, exactly. La Creek ahead of She's Lickety Split. I reckon Daisies will run a really big race here, much to the joy of my youngest daughter, and she makes me back it for her every time it goes around.
Yeah.
I'm going to play those 3 in an exacta and a trifecta pretty hard, I reckon. I reckon that's about as confident as I'll be about an exotic bet this week.
I've got Palacepan in for 3rd. I just think it's
Going
been
well.
going.
Going
Only
really
Chain of
well.
Lightning has beaten Palacepan, and that's pretty good form, as we know. All right, that is our 3rd Group 1. So we move on to the Lexus Archer Stakes. You get a ticket into the Melbourne Cup. How do you see the race?
I don't think the winner will be troubling the scorers on Tuesday, Matty. I found this a very difficult race to assess. These are horses who have also been mixing their form and taking in turns. So I've just kind of gone with a horse who was good last start, and we're still kind of seeing her sort of on the up, Realm of Flowers. I thought her Metro run was probably the run of the race. There's a bunch finish there, but behind her was Durston and also Stockman, who have come out and won since. So I'm going with Realm of Flowers, but it's a low confidence race for me.
Your thoughts on the race, mate?
Oh, they've been racing against each other. You look for the fresh blood, and Realm of Flowers is probably the fresh blood, but we know her very well, and I think you know her level as well going into this race. If she won, it wouldn't surprise, but you could probably say the same for about 5 or 6 in the race. I landed on Great House. I'm hoping the track's not too wet. He's a very good Flemington horse, and he won the race last year.
So your top 3, James?
Top 3 with little confidence. Realm of Flowers, I've got Macram for 2nd. He's one who's probably on the up. He's in the right stable to improve. A bit of a spike in performance for him. And I've got Allegron. Went like a crab at Caulfield last start. Was gone about 600 metres from home, but is a completely different horse at Flemington. Obviously placed in the Derby and has won over this sort of trip at Flemington, so he could be a big improver. But again, yeah, I'm not sure this is the race we want to be looking to for a cup perspective.
Your top 3, Joe?
Great House, Allegron, and then one more chance.
Oh, who?
Interpretation.
Oh no.
Blinkers back on. Maybe a wet track's what he's looking for. I don't know. I don't know.
Pulled
if I
up
could
lane
back it.
last time, so
Yeah, I think we've all pulled up lane from backing interpretation.
All right, to finish up then, James, your best bets at Flemington on Derby Day.
yes, best bet actually goes around in the Empire Rose. We've already spoken about La Creek. Just trust the eye with her. She looks good and backed up on the clock as well. So La Creek is the banker of the day. Next best, race 1, number 2. I think we can get off to a good start with Sandpaper, Matty. At near double figures, I was surprised it went up such decent odds. There are form lines everywhere in this race as the Guineas form, and a Waller horse that's coming off a pretty good maiden win. But Sandpaper beaten by a horse called Angry Skies last start, who I have a fair bit of time for, and those two put a bit of a gap on the rest. So I think Sandpaper can improve again at third up. William Buick, world-class jockey in the saddle from a good gate as well.
All right, mate, thanks for that. Happy punting.
Thank you.
Thanks to James Lamb for joining us. Next up, we're racing in Sydney with Nick H.
The betting brand for sports fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
This is Punters Inside Run, and we are racing in Sydney. Mick Sharkie has joined me, and making his television debut here is Nick Hluchaniuk, or Nick H as we like to call him. Mate, welcome.
Great to be here ahead of what is a very good card at Rosehill.
It is a big day, isn't it?
It is.
$10 million Golden Eagle, and all of a sudden there's 20 runners. You don't see that very often, do you?
A late little decision there. I guess if you're racing New South Wales, you're saying, I'm putting on a $10 million race. We'll do what we want to have the best field.
Yeah.
No one's going to argue with PBL because they're going beautifully. There's lots of...
Beg tried.
And look where I've got him.
Yeah.
Light infantryman is, or light infantry, I should say. I'm getting ahead of myself there and trying to sort of get him over the line, but world-class form.
Absolutely world-class form. His last two runs at Deville, like, number one, he's run into probably one of the best mares in Europe in Spiral. But before that, there's about 2 or 3 horses that have come out and since run really well at Group 1 level against all comers. So there's a super form reference. And really, I think from the draw now, he is the absolute top pick in this race. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah.
I guess it's on paper he looks that way, but first time at Rosehill, a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's those question marks, but I absolutely agree. The form around him there in those Group 1s are really good. I think there was a little bit of a question mark 2 back because it was a bunch finish for the placings. But to come out and do it again, as you mentioned, the horses around have performed really well. And we saw last year we had a couple of runners, Maximal, Laws of Indices, come straight to the Golden Eagle first up, performed really well from wide draws. So I think he's the class here.
All right, well, let's have your top 3 selections then for the $10 million. I keep saying it, the $10 million Golden Eagle.
Yes, so no surprise with light infantry on top. I think Mr. Mozart is crying out for 1,500. Wide draw, so just needs a little bit of luck early, but a chance at odds. And Gypsy Goddess, this is their one target for the spring, so throwing her in for third.
All right, Shark, where did you land? I have a feeling you've got light infantry on top.
It's all about light infantry here for me.
That's what they said in one of the wars, but I won't mention which one.
Might have been the Holy Grail.
Yeah. I think we got away with it.
Yeah. He's the win bet for me in this race. I think the best 2 for place getters are probably I Wish I Win. I think he's really well placed. And also Fangirl getting back onto what looks to be an improving track. Fingers crossed we get good ground there on Saturday.
Where do you see Chain of Lightning? I mean, this is a horse that has only really been beaten once, and that was on a heavy track. How do you rate Chain of Lightning?
Yeah, look,
Jamie Carr's gone across to ride, so to me that's a busy signal.
That's a big tick. The Melbourne form, Sydney form has been a debate all the way through the spring. Look, not in my numbers, but got to respect, as you mentioned, to go up there for the ride.
All right, that's the Golden Eagle. Plenty of prize money up for grabs there, but also with the Nature Strip Stakes, the newly named Nature Strip Stakes, looks a bit easier, I guess, than the Golden Eagle, with maybe 5 or 6 main chances.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a good race to step out from the Everest and have some of these horses a fortnight later. I really like Lost and Running. I thought a chance going into that Everest. Obviously disappointing that couldn't line up, and they must be thinking what if, because had beaten Marzu the start prior in the Premier Stakes. Marzu ran really well in the Everest, so would have been tough for connections, but they get a chance here.
Do we read anything into that? Is the horse 100% fit here?
So that's the only question mark I'd have. As long as it hasn't gone back any, clearly the horse to beat, but has had that little setback.
How do you rate the race?
It's very even. Yep. And again, it's that Everest form tie-in and the lead-ups to the Everest, which is all very strong. I'm taking a bit of a throw at the stumps, Nick. You might tell me if I'm a lunatic or not. I reckon Brutality is flying. I think he's ready to win a race. And stepping the 1,300 metres, I know the company he keeps in this race is probably a bit strong for him. He's just going so well. At $60-odd, I have to have something each way.
Yeah, wouldn't have said lunatic.
But you can, mate.
Slightly deranged.
I did.
I would have preferred 7 furlongs, but going very well though.
I think he's being polite because he's making his debut for sure. All right, where did you land then with your top 3 for this race?
Keen on Lost and Running, Marzu in for second, and Private Eye. Bad draw, unfortunately, but absolutely flying.
Gee, I thought Private Eye had it won before Giga Kick came from nowhere. Yourself?
I'm with Brutality ahead of Private Eye, and let's put in Lost and Running there for third.
I've got Lost and Running on top. I've got Maestro for third, but I'm just banking on the fact that Masked Crusader can jump. Because if Masked Crusader can jump, it's a very competitive horse, especially if there's some speed on up front. All right, that is that race there, the Nature Strip. But what about your best bets for a big day at Rosehill?
Yeah, so I mentioned Lost and Running, who is my best bet, but just a couple others I want to touch on. A horse in race 9 called Kobe, just coming out of a BM64, but a horse really on the up, only had the 5 starts, and look, had 60 kilos, the wide barrier last start, and won really well, 1.5 lengths, has a nice turn of foot, so I think he's above average and finds a very winnable race in the city.
Yep.
And just a value play, race 5, a horse called Delexo, flies fresh, 2 wins from 3 starts fresh, and should be 3 from 3 unlucky last time out.
Beautifully done, mate. It's not that hard, is it?
Not at all.
No.
No.
Especially when he's throwing up lunatic ideas like brutality.
As long as we get the winners.
That's the sort of attitude we want from Nick H, who joined us for racing in Sydney. Next, all the winners with the big call.
The betting brand for sports fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
This is Punters Inside Run, and this is the big call where we recap all the tips on a very big day's racing. We know it's Derby Day, lots to get through. Shark, take us away with James Lambs' tips.
Well, let's kick it off in the Coolmore Stud Stakes, where James is with Jacquino number 1, from In Secret number 15 and Buenos Noches number 6. In the Derby, he likes Sharp and Smart number 1 from Berkeley Square number 2 and Manzois number 7, who he made a really good case for at odds.
Yes, going in my quaddie now.
Yeah, in the Empire Rose, La Creek number 14 from She's Lickety Split number 16 and Yearning number 12. And the Lexus Archer, well, the last chance to get into the big one, the Cup on Tuesday. Realm of Flowers number 7 from Macram number 6 and Allegron number 1. Now, James's best bet, race 8 and number 14 La Creek, and his next best in race 1. Get it early, Matty. Number 2, Sandpaper.
Yeah, I might have to have 2 bets now. I was going to back the Waller runner, and I think I'll save with Sandpaper as well. Now, it was great to have Nick H in the studio for the first time. Well done, Nick. And he's our Sydney man at punters.com.au. In the Golden Eagle, his top 3. He likes light infantry, like a lot of us, at number 12. Mr. Mozart is number 6, and for third, he's got Gypsy Goddess, number 17. In the Nature Strip Stakes, his top 3 is Lost and Running to run first, number 7, ahead of Marzu, number 3, and number 2, Private Eye. His best bet is Lost and Running in that big race, and his next best is Kobe, race 9, number 10, and he's got a roughie halfway through the day at Delexo in race 5, number 3. So that is Nick's, and Shark, take us through yours.
Coolmore Stud for me. I'm within Secret number 15 ahead of Buenos Noches number 6 and Grand Impact number 7, the only unbeaten horse in the race, Matty. In the Derby, I'm with a bit of value. Muramasa number 10 from Berkeley Square number 2 and Sharp and Smart number 1. Like most, I'm with La Creek number 14 and the Empire Rose from She's Lickety Split number 16 and Daisy's number 13. Go Daisy. Lexus Archer Stakes for me. Great House number 2. He's a previous winner of the race, so I think that bodes well for him. To beat Allegron number 1 and Interpretation last chance for number 10. The Golden Eagle for me, Matty. Light Infantry number 12. One of the better bets of the day, I think. To beat Fangirl number 15 and I Wish I Win number 5. And I'm going out there, way out there.
You are out there.
Out there.
This is brutal.
It is, well, sort of. In the Nature Strip Stakes, I'm with Brutality number 9 at a massive price from Private Eye number 2, Lost and Running number 7. My best is La Creek, Flemington race 8 number 14. My next best at Flemington, race 3 number 8, Triple Missile is around about $6.
I do like Triple Missile, I will be backing that, but my best bets for the day in the Coolmore Start, I've got Buenos Noches, number 6 on top of In Secret 15 and Jacquino, number 1 to run third. In the Derby, Sharp and Smart as well, number 1 from Mr. Maestro at number 4, ahead of Berkeley Square, number 2. In the Empire Rose, I've got La Creek on top, ahead of She's Lickety Split and Palacepan, so 14, 16 and 7. In the Lexus Archer Stakes, Macram on top, number 6, ahead of Realm of Flowers, number 7, and Surefire, number 8. So racebook order there, 6, 7 and 8. In the Golden Eagle, Light Infantry, number 12, ahead of Valana from the Wide Barrier, number 4, and Chain of Lightning, number 16. In the Nature Strip Stakes, my top 3 are Lost and Running, number 7, ahead of Masked Crusader, number 4, and Marzu, number 3. And my best bet is race 5, number 7, Turath, who likes the 1400, doesn't mind the soft, likes Flemington. And that's all our best bets and tips on the big call in what is a very busy day's racing. And that's it for us, Shark. It is a busy day. It's my favourite day. It's my wedding anniversary.
Is it? A happy anniversary, Matty. I hope you get the quaddie.
19 years.
Well, that's a good effort.
On that note, we'll say goodbye. Hope you enjoy Derby Day. Hope you enjoy Golden Eagle Day in Sydney. Subscribe below to make sure you catch us next week on Punters Inside Run.